Well, I have with me the new CEO and Managing Director of India's biggest software company, Rajesh Gopinathan. Rajesh, thank you for joining us. Let me officially congratulate you now. So, 48 hours into new job, how does it feel?
Feels great, top of the world.
So, what is the first most important decision you've taken as a CEO?
Most important decision is maximize time with customers and employees. So that's a big change from my earlier role, and pretty much executing on that from Jan 12th itself.
But personally, I'm sure things will change for you because Chandra once told me that he travels more than 120, 130 days in a year. His family had to adjust more than he had to adjust. Mm-hmm. So, are you prepared for this new change of leadership? I mean, because a successful leader is someone who also marries his personal life, family life along with the organizational needs.
Absolutely. So right from the beginning itself, I sat down with my wife and my daughter. She's 12 years old. Explain the whole thing. The wife obviously understands it a lot more. Explain to them that what it will involve. And the great thing is they are solidly behind me because, as you said, travel is going to increase significantly. That's core to this role. We have a fairly large organization spread out, customers spread out, employees spread out, and reaching out to them is going to be a critical part of this whole experience. And in fact, the exciting part of an experience. I'm looking forward to that.
So what was your handover from Chandra? I mean, did he give you a handover that Rajesh, these are the things you need to focus on, these are the things you don't need to focus on now?
So his thing was that you've been managing the risk side of the equation. Now manage the return side of the equation and look at the upsides more and let somebody else worry about the downsides. That's one big behavioral change that he spoke about. The other one I commented earlier was his advice that I should be smiling a lot more often and getting across.
And maybe more television interviews. Did you hint anything on that?
Oh yes, he said especially to Nikunj.
Let me address some concerns which I've got from some of his shareholders. These are not concerns. Concerns is a very harsh word. It's not the appropriate word. Some curiosity questions. And the first curiosity question was that normally organizations, when they do such a large migration, those are prepared migrations. Mm-hmm. This has come as a sudden for whatever circumstances. We all know the circumstances. Do you think personally, were you prepared for this migration, and is the organization prepared for this kind of a migration?
I would say the question is, were you expecting it? The answer would be no. Are you prepared for it? I think in many ways I was, and a fairly large number of people in TCS would have been also. So we have a fairly unique culture where the top 50 people get together almost every month physically for a couple of days, and we do our reviews openly. Everyone is quite clued onto what's happening in the organization, and all reviews happen in an open forum. So that actually has ensured there's a level of transparency. Everyone is lockstep with what is going on. People know what the issues are, not just in their own unit, in other units, how we have tackled different ones. So while it seems a cliche, but the strength of management team and the depth of the management bench, we really have 20-30 people who could be rolled on at any point in time, and that's the kind of power. Second element of it, of course, is again back to the stability of the management team. It's not that a person is coming in and taking over a new team. These are people that we have worked with together for the last 20 years. So it's more of a first among equals kind of position rather than taking on a new team and trying to build equations. The relationships go back very long, and all of us understand each other. So I think I quite prepared for it, and if the choice had been with somebody else, also I would have been equally prepared, and that person would have also been equally prepared. We're pretty much on that kind of a team.
Rajesh, in your earlier avatar, you were responsible for margins, cost cutting, hedging, managing forex volatility. Now it's a management role. You'll have to lead a team. You'll have to negotiate across the table with consumers. Customer engagement has to increase, and it will increase at a time when there are concerns. Growth is tepid. Global technology is going through a reboot. There's a disruption there. So how will you ensure that you can wear these multiple hats?
So the great thing is, and again back to the TCS culture, but I have rolled through multiple roles. So I'm an engineer, did my engineering. I'm an electrical engineer, worked in artificial intelligence of all things in '94. And in TCS, and the first 5 years in the group was across multiple business areas. Worked in telecom, worked in steel, multiple areas I worked on. In TCS, my first 5 years was actually in a sales role. I was based out of Santa Clara, doing something as disruptive then as digital is today. We were getting into the e-business space, and I was running the pre-sales activity for TCS e-business based out of Santa Clara. I've been operations. I came back. I was chief of staff to Chandra when he took over as COO. We went through a big organizational change in 2008, and I ran the change management office at that time. And it's later only that around 2009 that I came into finance. So in fact, interestingly enough, when I took over as CFO, one of the big questions was, you're putting a non-finance guy as a CFO, and now the circle has come back, and we are looking at saying that you're putting a finance guy as a business. I think these are roles that we do, and different roles call for different flavors of oneself. It's an opportunity for you to explore different elements. And the examples have been that in TCS we have always had this culture of people wearing different hats, and that goes part of the organic management building culture that we have. So I'm quite excited. These labels don't bother, because these are transient labels. The challenge is, can you do justice to the role? And that's where the challenge is, where the opportunity is.
I'm not for a second undermining your ability and capability. It's just that the migration is happening at a time when there are multiple headwinds are not there. There are multiple challenges. There is a political challenge because of the visa problem. There is a business disruption. There is a technology disruption. So you will have to hit the ground running. Are you prepared for that?
Absolutely. So think about it this way. Technology disruption is the lifeblood of our industry. The reason our tech services industry is so vibrant and continues to renew itself is because it rides on technology and disruption. So when I first joined TCS, as I said, e-business was the one that was disrupting the industry. When Chandra took over as CEO, it was just after the financial crisis, and there was a business disruption that was creating a lot of doubt and opportunity. Today it is digital and other elements of the technology stack that is causing it.
You share the same vision or Chandra's vision on digital, because every time I spoke to him about digital, he was very excited. He said that, look, this is the new engine which is going to be the humming engine for TCS. Are you as excited about the digital business as Chandra is or was?
Absolutely. It's going to be digital all the way. I mean, we are looking at a full stack transformation across enterprises, and people have just started on the journey. They bought into it. So now the actual heavy lifting of it is just about starting. So huge amount of investments that are going in, huge amount of opportunity that will come up. It will create realignment of services, new services to be brought in. And again, that is the momentum that you need, and you've got to ride on to get to it. So we are I'm very excited about it. And digital will be as all-pervasive as e-business is today. So 5 years later, we'll be looking forward to something new, because digital will be the fabric of the whole tech stack.
So give me an example of how many customers you've met in last 1 month. Are you planning to meet more customers? What's the feedback you've got from them? Have they welcomed this transition, or are they asking you tough questions now?
I've met close to 70-75 customer executives across 40-50 companies over the last 1 month. I've been traveling Europe, US, spent more than 2 weeks on the road. I've been to Singapore. So met a variety of customers. And overall, the most heartening part of it is that customers are very comfortable with TCS. They've seen TCS go through changes, and they've seen the longevity of our relationships. So they're quite excited, they're quite open and supportive to the whole thing. They're also taking comfort from the fact that Chandra is going to continue as the chairman, so it's not a full shift, as it were. And more importantly, many of them have a very long shared history with TCS, either in their own organizations or in different organizations, but still with TCS. So they know that in this company we are going to be we are going to celebrate our 50th anniversary next year, and I'm going to be the 4th CEO. So it's a company with a lot of longevity on the management side, and that's the biggest comfort factor. So they're quite welcoming, quite supportive, and we had a very good set of meetings.
So has Chandra given you any informal indication that how much of his time now will be devoted to TCS? Earlier he was giving his 100% time to TCS. In his new avatar, even though TCS is the most valuable Tata Sons company or Tata Group company, the priorities will change. He has other board meetings to attend, other things to stitch and monitor.
So he's going to be on a cloud model, so available on demand and just 5 minutes away. So that's in the new world of things. It's not dedicated,
So there is no
coverage.
formal or informal agreement.
There's both the formal and informal agreement is available on demand and as much as required.
The reason I'm connecting this migration again and taking it back to what Chandra did and what you're trying to achieve is because Chandra has raised the bar higher. We've looked at the face of TCS, how it has changed. What was the face of TCS during Mr. Ramadurai and what has been the face of TCS during Chandra. Leadership matters. CEOs, they really change the culture. We all know about it, both locally and globally. So what will change for TCS in the next 2 years under your leadership? I'm sure you've thought through it. Before you accepted this role or this challenge, I'm sure you must have thought of the plan.
So the great, one thing, as you said about the difference between this migration compared to Chandra's migration, while Chandra has raised the bar very high, he has also left me with a much deeper management bench compared to where we were in this thing. Second element of it is in terms of what the plan is. The plan, as I said, is to go 100% digital, to accelerate it. So the two operative words are scale and speed. So it is not about change of direction. We are on that direction. We have done the hard work. Now we got to put the pedal to the metal and go fast and go full. So that's the plan. So you will see us fleshing out this into multiple new areas. You will see us pressing it on the scale button and trying to get to that 100% mark as soon as possible.
The criticism in the market is that Tata Sons, they gain disproportionately, and minority shareholders, well, the acceptance ratio will not be even 4%.
So the acceptance ratio is exactly the same, and the operative word is it's proportionate. So we've been doing dividends in the past, buyback, and now all of them are proportionate payback to the shareholders. Everyone gains in equal proportion to their holdings.
Suddenly all Indian IT companies are going the buyback way.
I think the government came out with new regulations about a year and a half back in 2015. SEBI clarified a lot of the buyback guidelines, and to some extent last year was a wait and watch mode where some initial corporates tested the waters, and slowly the quantum of buybacks kept on increasing. If you saw, people first started with 400, 500, then Wipro tested it, Dr. Reddy's tested it, and then some PSU companies came in with 7,500 crores of buyback. So some amount of case history has got built up, and people are getting more, understand the instrument better, understand the regulations and the nuances of it better. So that's I think it's now one more arrow into the quiver of instruments to distribute capital back to shareholders. So dividend was always there. Buyback is now another instrument to do it.
The buyback price which was announced on Tuesday was at a 14% premium to Monday's closing price. Is that an indication that the board of TCS feels the stock is underpriced?
It's not about whether it's underpriced or not. It is benchmarked to a premium on the average price, and also to some extent it is benchmarked to what our high point has been. So 2850 has been.
That price? I'm sure there must be some consideration. I mean, it has to be a number which I'm sure must have been arrived by looking at some maths and some data point.
One of the things that we looked at was what has been the highest point. So if a shareholder were to go back and think about it, that was I better off selling it earlier or now, at least that the high mark has been maintained. And we kind of used that as a one benchmark. Looked at comparatively, we felt that that was a reasonable number. But again, wearing my finance hat, actually when it comes to rights or buybacks which are proportionate, the price is actually immaterial because it's equally available to all shareholders to participate in.
You still like answering finance dominated questions.
Oh yeah, I mean I've been doing that for 4 years. It will take some time to get the jungle out of the tiger.
So, but is this an indication that the capital allocation strategy for TCS will change in foreseeable future?
See, the capital allocation, the thing about TCS is that we have been on a very disciplined capital allocation strategy. So think about it this way, we are a relatively young company, right? So when we started off, we went on a journey and we have been steadily increasing the amount of distribution. We were in the 30s earlier, we stepped it up to 40s, into the 50s, and you got to think about it the full cycle. So I have always maintained that there are 3 parameters to capital allocation in TCS. One is the quantum of the distribution, second is the cadence of the distribution, and the third is the instrument of the distribution. So quantum wise, as I said, we have been on a steady path of increasing it, and I see that continuing, but we have always taken steady measured paths so that we don't need to go up and down. On cadence, we have maintained both a quarterly cadence, where we are among the few companies that actually distribute dividends in the tech industry on a quarterly basis. So first 3 quarters we do low distribution, and then at the end of the year, once the full year picture is known, we distribute a larger final dividend. Similarly, on a cycle basis also, the first 2 years we typically keep it lower, and then every third year, whatever is the accumulated excess cash, we kind of flush out. So this cadence, we have been maintaining it over the last 10 plus years. Stakeholders are comfortable with it, people understand it. But we have got some feedback that maybe now that you guys are more than 10 years post listing and you have some fair history, maybe you want to even out this cadence a bit, and that's something that we are examining at the board level. Third is the instrument. As I said, the only instrument so far used was dividend. This new instrument has been introduced a year back. We have studied it, we are comfortable with it, so we are experimenting with it now. And assuming that it all goes well, it will continue to be that we will have two instruments of distribution. So we will have a regular dividend policy and a buyback policy.
Broadly, you've used 90 to 91% of your projected cash flows for FY17. You've used either for a dividend payout or a buyback. So what could be the number like for next year? I mean, you'll understand what I'm trying to arrive at. What I'm trying to understand is that how much of your projected cash flows next year will be given back to shareholders?
So answer it slightly differently. If you look at our last sequence ending in June 15, so if you look at the 3 years ending in June 15, we distributed 55% of 3-year accumulated earnings. And similarly, we have been at 40-40 for the first 2 years. And once the final dividend is also announced here, it will definitely be more than 55. But exactly what the amount is, it will be amiss of me to comment on it right now. But you should expect that 55 to go up. And next year is again a question of how we handle the cadence part of it. So once we have made up our mind on it, we'll talk about it.
But broadly, to understand that in terms of payout to shareholders, your capital policy would be that you want to pay out more. Trajectory is headed higher.
Trajectory is headed higher. That is correct.
Can I safely assume that your return ratios will also change dramatically, because the cash which has been lying in your balance sheet was giving you 7-8% yield.
Yes.
Now things change. So return on equity, return on capital, they will improve dramatically.
Absolutely. So the way you should think about it is, again, if you will pardon my switching back to finance one, the gap between our ROE and ROIC will steadily close as we go forward.
So where do you think it will settle?
Again, we don't give forward guidance, but
you give me margin guidance, so I'm sure you can share this guidance.
No, we give a band guidance. So right now we are in the 30s on the ROE and the 50s on the ROIC. So we'll move ROE closer to that.
These are extraordinary circumstances for the IT service sector per se. In extraordinary circumstances, they do warrant extraordinary action. You've never bought growth in the past. But now is it time to really think out of the box? Competition is talking about artificial intelligence. Competition is talking about adaptability. They are talking about other aspects of technology which we've never heard of in the past. Are you now been forced to think on those lines, or you think you have enough internal capability to monetize all the global disruption and you don't have to look at buying serious growth?
So the answer to it is that we have never believed in buying growth. We have always believed in buying capabilities or strategic options. But it's a never say never attitude. So our deal review.
But you're not in a hurry to buy something.
You're not in a hurry to buy anything. I think we have seen over the time that our ability to build organically has been quite good, and we're continuing to invest in building that capability, whether it be from a learning side or an investment side. So what you should remember is that while people focus on our margin band, we have the most prolific investment strategy in terms of exploring new markets, exploring new services. We have been always ahead of the game in terms of doing it. So rather than being late and trying to buy into something, we have always been proactive and opened multiple beachheads on which we incrementally build on. So that strategy and that investment area continues apace. We are in fact doubling down on many of those areas. And beyond that, if opportunities come up and if something specific appears in the horizon, we are always ready to move in quite swiftly. And that is where the balance sheet strength helps, that we have the firepower needed to take in a transient opportunity if we find one.
Okay. Now, last time when we formally spoke to you was immediately after your Q3 numbers. We're speaking to you when we are at the midpoint, and then you moved into a silence period. Now, historically, when you've had problems, when you've seen when you've taken a very myopic view, you've predicted that, look, there are challenges in this quarter. Any reason for me to believe that there are no challenges in this quarter despite the Trump rhetoric?
The quarter is turning out to be a fairly, I would say, non-eventful quarter, but still halfway in. The good news is that customer commentary coming in at the start of the year is quite encouraging.
Is it better than what you thought when you started the year?
So that's a tough one to assess. What was it? But let me put it this way: that there is a strong investment case that many customers are working on. There's an equally strong productivity challenge that they are faced with, and they're trying to figure out how to balance it. But net, in almost every customer, the only place that is attracting incremental investment within their portfolio is technology. So every single customer across industries is figuring out how to increase its investment in technology. So the question is, can we participate in it? How are we positioned to do that? And how much does it actually translate to? So this twin road will continue, where there are going to be productivity challenge, there are going to be investment opportunities, and we got to ensure that our participation is high.
Let me ask you a question point blank, because ultimately markets, they want growth. Ultimately, the light here around is getting dark, so I don't want to make that as a moot point. But when do you think growth will make a comeback?
That's a fairly larger question for the whole market, right? So I would say that as economic growth comes back, technology growth will lead that cycle, and we will actually participate disproportionately in that growth. The bigger question as to when will growth come back is more difficult to say, because it's been a fairly moving kind of.
Even though NASSCOM has taken the bar down, you think you will be able to now finally grow at a run rate higher than the industry average?
I don't think so that NASSCOM has taken the bar down. They stayed away from quantifying it, saying that too many companies are, it's difficult for them to actually put a...
Let me put it this way.
What's that?
11 has become 8. The projected growth of 11% has become 8. And I'm sure 8% beating the NASSCOM guidance and coming out and indicating that you're finally growing at a run rate higher than the industry average should be an easy task.
So on a historical basis, whatever the numbers are, the numbers will be. On a future basis, we don't give guidance, and now I think NASSCOM has also stayed away from giving a guidance for the future.
So will that change with the new CEO now? You'll be more open about giving guidance and giving sense of how you're growing?
As I said, we are not averse to it. We'll keep on evaluating it. If it makes sense, we will do it.
Let me get closing comments from you, and maybe you can use this forum to just clear the air that whatever nervousness is there in the market, that okay, what will happen to TCS, how will change of guard pan out, give me a message largely to your shareholders that all is well at TCS. Even though it may look like a big migration, this is going to be a good migration.
So definitely to everyone, all is well in TCS. All of us are continuing to be in TCS. Please remember that there is not much of a change. It's I would say a shift right kind of a phenomena. But the key point is that TCS has a fairly stable culture, and that's not going to change. Personalities will change, and different focuses will come in, but we are all present. So there's no churn at TCS, and that's the biggest message.
We should always track Chandra and his big marathons. I haven't tracked you personally. So as a journalist, what should I be curious about tracking about your life?
So right now, how I do in TCS, and as it builds out, I'm sure more aspects of it will come.
Really good luck. Appreciate your time.
Thanks,
and thank you for joining us.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/etnow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at etnowlive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/etnow.